Hello, and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blank Gates. Looks like I have a chat today, so if anyone ends up chatting, we'll be able to chat. All right, let's get jump into this. The first thing I want to talk about is this blog situation. It's unknown how far we're going to get with this idea, but I just wanted to go into a little bit about the thinking behind what I would think about in this situation. And it goes back to this idea that we have. It's called product launch roadmap. So for every time you have a product or service, then that's you have that thing. Other people call it a value proposition. You could also call it the offer. And then the offer is going to have a price. And the price is going to tell you a little bit about your customers that you serve. And so you have this model over here. Sometimes also with business, there's this thing you call margin. And I just wanted to remember that in that video, the that what do you call it? Y Combinator video. There was a little bit of a conversation about margins and what happens when you have an issue with margins. And the thing is that a lot of companies are going lean. You could say as the concept, as the idea. And what does it mean to go lean? Basically, what it means to go lean is that if you have a group of people that are really good at using AI and they can build quickly, then why would you? Oh, perfect. Okay, turn that volume. Okay, I can hear myself. Like, why would you spend a lot of money on developers? So that's really the issue. Now, I suppose with these guys in Silicon Valley, I mean, it's hard to say what is going on in their individual businesses, but they do often talk about realistic situations. They talk about companies that they're managing. They're talking about companies that they created. They talk about companies that they're funding. And if we go into this thing called Y Combinator, if we go into their website, you can see that they've funded 5,000 startups. That just means that there are probably some winners and some losers. And then there's going to be some people in the middle, which means that there's a couple of companies, maybe more than one, where they're not quite profitable, but they could be profitable if we could reduce some of the costs. And then in other situations, you have companies that aren't profitable or they don't quite work properly, but they could be if we had access to like super intelligence with these AI bots. So what are we talking about? Well, let's go into one of my favorite things. It's called the Buchholz drive model. And the fun thing about coaching is that like I talk to real people every day about their businesses and the situations that they're going through, and usually we talk about management. So now let's look at this concept in terms of dollar bills, yo. Let's look at this in terms of dollar bills. So on the left hand side we got the people and the performance, and on the right hand side we got systems and we got work styles. Now the first thing that we want to look at is the level of effort and the level of success. We call it people and performance. Now, if we go into the Miro board, this is this section over here that I've been talking about, not a lot, but just a little bit. And yeah, basically everything's in there. Well, not everything. So when I go straight to the money, sometimes we do a little bit of a warm up exercise first, like this craziness. So usually with my students, I ask them this question: what makes an effective manager? Then we go into this clip. It's really funny. I don't know if it's going to show it or not.
All right, we just made ourselves a plan.
Look at this plan.
We're so good at planning.
We're marvelous at planning.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now all that is left is for us to do the plan. The doing, yes. Yes, the doing.
Hmm.
Take a 5-minute break, 10 minutes, 1 hour. Forget the plan. Forget the plan.
Forget the plan. Video clip. And like, that's the thing. And I saw somebody else. He was complaining about the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, and he's like, no, Carney. He was saying it. He says a plan always beats no plan. And then you go into like Pierre Poilievre, his sometimes you just listen to him and he's like, Mark Carney's got no plan and no budget and no this, no that. Okay, so that's like such a useless thing to say. Like, why don't you say the plan should be this, the budget should be this? Like, why don't like taking leadership? It means having the plan. All right. Unfortunately, so that means that Poilievre.
We completed our break and now must actually do the plan. Remember the plan.
Yeah. It was a good plan.
What does this plan demand of us, Brain?
Well, according to my brain manual, let me just see if I can find the page right. Oh,
Go on, do tell.
the plan requires effort.
Effort, you say.
Yes.
This revelation. I find it disgusting.
Okay. All right. Now, if we go into plan, this is going to be triggering for some people. There's a guy named Donald Trump in America, and he's got this. Like, if you want to understand Donald Trump, I think you have to go into Agenda 47, because Agenda 47, okay, 47 means like I'm going to be the 47th president. So he started putting together his policies. And I think it's really important, if you're going to understand what a political leader is planning to do, then you should probably take a look at his actual policies. And some people are like, no, he's got no plan. He doesn't even know what he's doing. It's like making tariffs and then taking off tariffs and doing this and doing that. And it's like, for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe he has a plan, maybe he doesn't have a plan, but it's not going to be any use for me to say he has a plan or he doesn't have a plan. What's useful for me is to go in and actually go and look at the data. So we know that there's around, some people say 31 videos, some people say more than 31 videos. So there's a series of videos where it's going to go through and it's going to explain all the different elements of the plan. In fact, there's this one website where it says, here are all 31 of Trump's detailed policy videos so far. So maybe there's more than 31, but this is because this is from 2023. And then it goes through one by one. All right. So in my coaching practice, I talk to a lot of different people, about a lot of different subjects. And I just so happened to have a student from Russia. So I got I found the transcript for the very first video, and then I used AI to give us a translation. So then the guy, you can watch the video, you can listen to the video. What is this? You can listen to the video, and then also there's a translation. Что же больше вам спасибо от имени Мелани, себя и всей нашей семьи. Я хочу поблагодарить вас всех за то, что вы сегодня здесь. Это особенное событие о особенном месте. Вы и все, кто смотрит. Anyways, so I could probably practice my Russian if I started reading this more. I actually do have 2 Russian lessons per week where I practice reading. I could also use 11 Labs to turn this into an audio to listen and repeat. Anyway, so then what I did next was I just took the transcript and then I said, hey, listen, I just want to have an understanding of what are the policies from Trump policy document video number 1. So we got something about economy and trade. Lo and behold, impose tariffs on China, ensure that other countries pay to access the American marketplace, promote fair trade, reference past negotiations of NAFTA. It's like, what is this at all surprising? Manufacturing supply chains, big manufacturing and supply chains back to America, limiting dependence on China. So how do you think that's going to actually happen? How are you going to eliminate your dependence on China? You have to close the doors, stop the products from coming in, and then once people start getting hungry, like there has to be an emergency before people are actually going to make any change at all. Think about the whole welfare system. Right? The money's coming. If you're getting paid welfare, you think you're going to go outside and traverse the wild, wild world. So that's the issue. In fact, I think that this concept of like kind of like this third video, it's like this concept called Parkinson's law. So if we talk about Parkinson's law, we got deadline mode. Everyone's seen this, right?
The deadline approaches without mercy, and I stare at an empty screen.
We procrastinated for too long, and now we suffer.
Yes, thank you for the reminder, Brain. Now, can you do that thing that makes us do all the doings in the last minute?
In the last
Well,
minute.
in that case, I must activate deadline mode.
Yes, deadline. Well, I'm typing again. Oh. It's like right.
Deadline mode
Deadline mode
saves us once more.
once more.
Okay. All right. So this is called Parkinson's law, which means work expands to fill the available time. And so if you have a job, and probably you have a job because you like to eat and you need the money. So all these people that are working, they're working because they need the money. Anyways, this goes back to this concept of like funding companies, right? So these guys are getting their money from Y Combinator, and the question is like, when is that money going to end? And then what happens after that money disappears? So you have to spend your money wisely. And I mean, this is why, to some extent, I think that my whole approach has been like, survive, man. Like, I don't live in Canada because it's too expensive. If I lived in Canada, there's no way I would have been able to do the research that I've done for the last 10 years. There's no way I would have been able to do the project that I'm doing right now, because I have to figure out how to make this thing profitable. And you can see from all my videos that like I'm trying to make the software, and guess what? I'm a guy who doesn't know anything about software. All right, so we go back to this concept, and we're talking about dollar bills, right? So let's talk about level of effort. We got low level of effort, we got a high level of effort. Some questions: how boring or motivating is this task? How well are you able to focus on it? Are you spending enough time doing it? How determined are you to complete it? How diligent or laid back are you in general? What are some strategies for moving? This is the key. What are some strategies for moving from laid back to diligent? All right, so these dudes from Y Combinator, they're putting money into projects. What they want is a motivated workforce. And then you start to realize that the only way you're going to get a motivated workforce is you have to have people with the dream, you have to have people with the vision. And the thing is that like the most motivated people, the people who are going to work the hardest, people are going to push the hardest, people with the vision, people who are going to find a way to do it, they don't necessarily have the right skill set. Like, for example, maybe you saw a video, it's called Webflow. It's in my I was like criticizing different not AI, but like different website builders, because a couple of years ago I was trying to build a website so I could sell some products, sell my online course. I looked at Webflow, I made a video about Webflow, and I think these folks are from Calgary. I'm from Calgary, so I shouldn't be talking trash about people from Calgary. But I didn't like it. I was not impressed. I was not impressed, not one bit. And so then the thing is that like, okay, so I mean, would you like to work with these guys from Webflow? Sure. I mean, obviously they have a bunch of infrastructure that we can work on. We can build on it. But then at the same time, no, because these guys have traditional ways of solving problems. And now we're moving into this new world. And the thing is like, it's the same thing. You know, there's this guy named was it Thomas Sowell? There's this dude, this economist named Thomas Sowell. He's talking about government, and he's like, all right, so if you have a government, so he's working for the agricultural department in America. In America, he's working for the agricultural department in America, and he gets his job, and he starts doing some research, and then he figures out a way to solve a problem, and then he goes back to his superiors and says, hey, look, we've been looking at this wrong. This is the answer to the problem, and then we can solve this. And they're all like, I gotta stop you right there. And then he realizes that like, oh, these guys have a job. they're not necessarily motivated to solve the problem, because by solving the problem, they could eliminate their own job. So they're actually part of the problem. They're trying to create a problem in the system, because having that problem in the system gives them job security. So this is the problem I have with Webflow. I mean, I don't know any of these people. I don't know any the way that they think. I know that, like, I'm just thinking about, okay, so how am I going to build some kind of blog? So the first thing I do is I open up WordPress, and I'm like, all right, so this is WordPress. If I'm going to write a blog article, all right, so I need to understand how to use these blocks. Now remember that WordPress is actually a website builder. So maybe you've got to browse all. All right, now suddenly it's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so we got something about patterns. I have no idea what patterns are about. And we got the media. What the heck is media? I don't know what media is about. Free photos. Obviously, like, there's going to be like AI. There's going to be an AI bot like pronto. WordPress is going to be updated. There's going to be an AI bot in here. There's going to be an AI bot in here. And then look, we got all these. Like, what are these things? These are things that you would use in order to build your blog. Maybe I want to put an image, and then I want to put in a video, and then I want to put in a story, and then I want to put in a column, and then I want to put in a hero shot. I'm going to put in a calendar. I want to put, oh, wait a minute. This is a website builder. So there's not really a difference between website building and blogging. And then what do you find out? And then you find out, actually, a lot of people, they start blogging on WordPress, and then eventually they realize, like, oh, wait a minute, my blog it's a brochure. And it's a brochure of what? It's a brochure of my business. And okay, well, then I can add a couple of more pages to my blog, and then bada bing, bada boom, suddenly I have a business. All right, let's take a deeper look at what is a blog. So Tim writes an article about the 3 blogging platforms to use in South Korea. So I'm talking to one of my coachees today, and he's from South Korea. He made a beautiful presentation about the Racy Matrix. We were talking about the Racy Matrix today. He tells me that Naver is the blog of choice. So I thought, okay, well, I better take a look at this Naver. Start to think, what the heck is a Naver? I start looking at this. It looks like what? This is the thing. This looks like the way that they do it in China. So they have a similar style as China, and also similar as Russia. So, for example, if we look at the company called Yandex. Yandex is the Googlia of Tough Guys in 1980s. It must be a movie. I'm just checking my my search history, make sure I got nothing surprising popping up. Apparently, I watched the Russia Victory Parade 2025 live, and I searched for something called Tough Guys 1986, free online. Okay. Now so you can see that Yandex changed their style, so it actually matches Google. But the way that they did it before was that their style was more similar. What is this? A bell? Alice. Oh, it's their AI bot. Okay, so I don't know, because you can't actually показать. No, so what do I want to see? Предложения все для бизнеса. So you can't actually see it like they did. Let's still go into the Russia Victory Parade, for example. All right, so here we got search. We got, what is Nero? Nero? Is that their AI thing? Yeah, it's their Nero. Okay, so you can just add the AI bot. You can ask it some questions. And then Kartinki means image. We got it's got maps. We got store. We got translator. So we got a bunch of different options for the different services that Yandex provides. If we go back into Napster, you can see it's kind of the same situation. See, we have poached. We got how do you read this? Say Pilogi. Blogi. All right, so we found the blog. Yeah, I lived in South Korea for about 6 months, so I learned how to read about 15 years ago, and eventually you come up to this thing called Naver. You click in, and eventually what you see is, well, we could click this. Why not? Okay, we can't click this. So what I did earlier was I found this something. What did I find? Maybe we'll have to click blog and see what it shows us. So yeah, I clicked this blog page, and what is it? It's for searching blogs. And then I saw there was another button. I don't see it right now, but it was like the best blogs that you should check out. Okay, so it looks like we have a page here that is showing people's blogs, and there is a search box to search within the blogs. So, and then so I started talking to this South Korean dude, and I'm like, because we're talking about the Racy Matrix, so I decided, all right, well, since we're already talking about the Racy Matrix, why not like get this student to tell me a little bit about his thoughts? So instead of the general thing that I usually talk about, we ended up talking about. We tried to change the example for Naver. We want to add AI features to the page where people write their blog. And then suddenly I started realizing like AI first, it means different things to different people. And so this guy, he's a analyst. And so eventually we got to the point where we were talking about, okay, when the user creates a blog post, so number one, which AI model will we add to the blogging infrastructure? What can the AI do? So what do bloggers want it to do? And then decide on the metrics for success. How does it help this blogger get discovered? And then set objectives for this project. So for him, he was really focused on this idea of how does it help bloggers get discovered? And like I thought that was actually, it was strange for me to hear him like say that, because that was not what I was thinking at all. But then suddenly you kind of realize that, well, actually, so if you are going to be creating some kind of blog, the first thing is that, okay, people are going to have to use it. And then when they're using it to produce something, right? So what can the AI do? What do bloggers want it to do? All right, so these are output. It needs to create some kind of output. This brings us back to WordPress. All right, so eventually you're going to have a blog page, and then it's going to have like a window in here. And then the AI, you're going to say to the AI, okay, so I'm going to do some writing. And then after some writing, then it's like, okay, can you edit that? And can you change that? And can you move that? And can you do this? And can you do that? And can you add a picture? And can you change the background? And can you do this? Can you do that? So in that case, what you're talking about is brochure services. So you need an AI bot to help you with brochure services. This takes us all the way up to text, environment, and images. And now you can also get videos created with a lot of things. So what are we really talking about? If we jump into Matt Wolf's page called Future Tools, then this is really useful because his page is like, okay, so we have AI detection, we have copywriting, generative AI, image scanning, music research, text-to-speech, voice modulation, aggregators, finance, generative code, inspiration, podcasting, self-improvement, text-to-video, avatar, for fun, generative video, marketing, productivity, social media, translation, chat, gaming, image improvement, motion capture, prompt guides, speech to text, video editing. Good. So these are his categories. And this is a good start, because now the question is, okay, so which one of these are going to help you within your blog? Well, I don't know. Like, what is a blog? So let's go back to this page and let's check out some of these blogs. So if we open up, here's this dude. He's going to give you some advice about money. And then it's just a list of articles. You can see he put up an article on the 16th, on the 14th, on the 12th, on the 9th. So he blogs every other day. And then you click that, brings you into here. And then he says, Hajima. All right, so you can see it's just text. Okay, so he has an image. This looks like it's a WordPress blog. It's got some text, he's got some images, and then people read it and they're like, okay. So it looks like a blog is basically like an online course. It's like somebody does some research, they write down their ideas. It's like a chapter from a book. It's like a page from a book, and it's like it's a structure of ideas. This blog is okay. So it has this hero shot at the top, and then it has some. Here it is. So here's the featured blog articles. Looks like they wrote one here on the 15th, another one on the 15th. So they write every day, sometimes twice a day. And they just decided on a slightly different, see, look at this blog chart, high class number 1. Apparently, now you can see right away that the design is not so important. Because look, it's just large with big text. And why did it become popular? Because of the content. Let's take a look at the content. How to cancel a comprehensive income tax return where I deleted it. Okay. All right. So this is like now, okay. So what happens after you read hers? Is she just talking? Just I'm a housewife who protects myself, files my income, and consumes value. I record useful information in my life. Collaboration. Look at that collaboration. All right. So if you want her to help you, then you can send her. So she's a professional in this area. She's an expert in this domain. And it's a very simple thing. She's just giving people information. And then if you have some questions about your tax return in South Korea, then you can contact her, and then then she's going to pass your information to one of the people that she trusts in her network. So this is the marketing arm of some company that does tax returns. All right, we already did a money one. Maybe this is real estate. Looks like it's real estate. Okay, this one again. So this looks like we can click one of these. It's going to take us to the website. Are these blogs, or is this a website? Or are they categories? I just clicked that one. Coca-Cola. Nothing happens when I click this. Weird. Okay. So we got the 12th, the 9th, 29th. Okay, so they write about once a week. Once to twice a week. Looks like it's about money. It's just a big image. Again, I would say that I wouldn't say that it's what the visual aspects look like. What's important is the content searchable? So people are going to have some kind of question, right? Imagine I have this question. Do I have this question? Let's find out if I have this question. Gap investment meaning in the principal summary. Is it still a possible strategy? Summary of target and penalty criteria for the month rent reporting system. Tenants who don't pay rent. Summary of requirements determining victims in fraudulent lease. Okay, so you're a homeowner and you're looking for some information. Now, the thing is that, yeah, okay, so this is really, really specific information. Question. Imagine Naver creates an AI bot. And the AI bot uses the blog in order to train. Then do I really need to read this blog when I can go into AI and I can just ask AI the question? We have another issue is like, to what extent are blogs going to be relevant if blogs are a way of sharing information? Stocks related to group meals are expected to expand the market. Alternative food stocks, Sears technology stock, today's stock market. I don't know. Okay, so let's change the category. So now we got some kind of cartoons. I have no idea what this is. This one's interesting. So this is like movie It's about movies. They got this gigantic image at the front, and then we got whatever these things mean, and then we got a bunch of movies. Let's see what happens if we change the language. Changing the language does not change, so that means this is one big image. Okay, so the person's writing about movies. Could be interesting. Now, when we talk about movies, or when we talk about critics or people who are recommended movies, what we're talking about is somebody who enjoys movies, they like movies, and then they talk about which movies they like or they didn't like. And then people, they don't have a lot of time, or maybe they're not interested in wasting time on movies, and so they find somebody that they like and trust, and who gives them good information. So after they find somebody whose blog that they like, then they realize that, oh, this person is always recommending really great movies, and therefore I learned to trust this person. And now, rather than doing my own research or asking AI or asking a friend, I go directly to this blog. What do they got to say about the first 100 days of Mr. Trump movie tariff? Trump's movie tariffs. What? President Trump will impose 100% ban on films produced outside the United States and imported to the United States. What? I didn't hear about that. Okay, so then blogs are news. So in that case, what you're saying is it's like it's a news agency. Blog, it's also a source of, I don't know what you call this. I have no idea what these titles could possibly be. What time does it start raining like this? What day is it today for you guys? How well does it take me to... Sorry, I don't know how to use... I couldn't even... I don't know. Is it the same cat or is it different? That one kind of looks like that one. It kind of looks like that one. And it looks like that one. So it looks like it's in the... And then this one looks like that one. So this appears to have a few different cats. Yeah, so if you like cats, and then you can follow this bird, you can follow this one too. So what is this? This is like a form of entertainment. It's a form of information. And at some point, either... So it's more information rich. So let's say that we could say that Instagram is kind of like candy. It's just straight up, it's just images. People are just taking pictures of stuff, and like that's it. And then a blog is kind of like Instagram, but it's a little bit more complicated because you're going to have a picture, you're going to have a story, and then you're going to write a big, long about some topic. So blogs are for writers. So the first question is like, how do you support bloggers? I'm currently a blogger, and I feel what? How do you feel? I feel like it's not beautiful enough. So how would you like to make it more beautiful? Because what? So these are all squares. There's like there's windows, there's containers all over this screen. And in those containers, we either have images, or we have text, or we have video. So what does it mean to me as a blogger? All right, so what would I do if I wanted to blog? How would I blog? What's the purpose of it? Okay, so I do blog. I blog on YouTube. And why do you blog on YouTube? Because I can show you directly what I'm looking at. My work process is that I'm like this guy. So I'm sitting right in front of a computer. I'm working on the computer. All right, so what happens outside of my computer space? I take my dog for a walk. I go shopping. I don't have any... I play soccer. go running. I don't have anything that I want to talk about that happens outside of this seed. All right, so then we're focusing on here and now in this seed. All right, so what do you want to blog about? Well, right now I'm blogging about Arrowhead. Like, I'm blogging about how I'm using AI in order to create a piece of software. And then what? Okay, so, but the form of blogging, what I'm actually doing, the way that I'm blogging is that I'm sharing my screen, I'm showing you directly what I'm doing, and then I start doing it. All right. So let's just jump back into this content. If it's good. Oh, good. It's actually showed you the window this time. Okay. So, in my last video, it says, great. Let's see if I can hear the audio.
Concept. What are your initial thoughts on 1. Target audiences. Beyond the list in the brief, educators, AI, researchers, creatives, etc. Is there a primary audience or niche you think we should focus on initially to make the biggest impact or prove the concept? 2. Vibe coding, depth. For an MVP, how deep should vibe coding go? Are we thinking simple theme selections based on keywords, or something more involved like AI, suggesting layouts or specific interactive components based on a vibe description? Let's just talk through these, and I can help capture the key ideas. No need for formal answers, just your current thinking.
All right, can you hear me? Okay, so just now I was going through a bunch of different blogs. For example, I started with WordPress and I was looking at the interface where I would be able to write the things that I would like to write in my blog post. And I noticed there was a little plus button. When I clicked the plus button, then it showed me different elements that I could add to the screen. So I feel like probably we should look at some of the existing concepts. For example, on WordPress, it has one that says paragraph, image, heading, gallery, list, and quote. I guess that those are the 6 most used things that could be added to a page when people are writing a blog post. And then there's a button that says browse all. When I click the browse all button, what I noticed is that, I just check if this thing is actually still writing. Okay, what I noticed is that there's like blocks, patterns, media, and then there's sections for like text. So for example, you could add code, details, pre-formatted, pull quote, table, verse, classic, Jetpack AI search. Then they have a section on media. You can add images, gallery, audio, cover, file, video, masonry, offset, stack. Then there's a section for design, buttons, columns, stack, layout, grid. Then they have a section for widgets like calendar. And what I realized is, well, if you'd like, you could do your own internet research and get a full list of things that you could add to a WordPress blog. What I noticed is that what you actually have in this set of options is everything you would possibly need in order to design a website. And then I started thinking, okay, well, WordPress is, yes, it's a blog. It's, you start as a blogger, and then some percentage of the people who start out as bloggers are eventually going to realize that they want to create a website. Maybe they've been blogging about something and then that thing turns into a business. And now they want to add more stuff to their blog. And so WordPress, it hosts your website at the beginning. And then at some point you buy a domain name and you start paying WordPress, and then they enable you to have your own website. So, the question is, if there's already a company that's doing this, then why would we want to compete with WordPress, who happens to be Microsoft, who happens to own VS Code, who happens to own part of ChatGPT, who happens to own Windsurf? So it seems like they already have all the infrastructure that they would need in order to upgrade their current blog service, which is the like the most used platform for producing blogs and websites in the world. So aren't they like way ahead of this process already? And then I started going in and I started looking at like there's a Korean blog called naver.com, and on this website it allows people to create blogs. And I looked at all different types of blogs. There's people who are writing about movies, and people are writing about tax advice and investing and about property. And I started realizing that some people are looking for advice, and some people are looking for entertainment, and some people are looking for cute pictures of dogs and cats. And I started to realize that, like, yeah, so this is a way for people to share information. And then, of course, AI is taking a bigger and bigger chunk of this market, because like in the past, when you do a search, then you would have to actually like search for a specific topic, and then later you would go through all of the results, and then you'd have to like think through the problem yourself. But the next generation, they're not going to be doing that kind of thing. They're going to be using AI directly. And the AI, for example, let's say that this Korean company, Naver, decided that they wanted to create an AI, then they could train their AI on all of the current blogs. So if you have AI that's being trained on all the current blogs, that means it already has access to all the information that are being presented on blogs, meaning some percentage of that information is not going to be interesting for people to search anymore. The next generation, there's going to be a huge percentage of the blogs that were giving advice, which people, they're just not going to go to them anymore, because the people aren't going to want to search through 100 different articles just to find the answer that they're looking for. So then I realized that, like, also the way the blogs are presented, they're not necessarily the most attractive format. And then I realized that also people, they don't just want to share text, and they don't just want to share images, although it seems like the majority of blogs are related to just sharing a couple of pictures and writing text. So then the question is, okay, so are you saying that this project is primarily about people who enjoy writing and adding images, or is this project about people who start with a blog because they talk about something they're interested in, and then eventually it turns into a business, and then so they want to transfer their blog into an actual website? Or is this about like Naver, where people are storing information and then they get fans, and then those fans are constantly going to their blog because they're talking about subjects and topics that their fans are interested in? Like, what does it mean to create a blog, and what are the most famous blog platforms right now, and how can you actually compete with these blog platforms, and how is the culture changing? So is this culture going to be changing? And then the question really is, what is going to be in like a year from now, and what is going to be in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years? And so what time zone are we, what time section, how much of the future are we looking for when we start to think about how to create this project? And then I started looking at, like, I had a chat with one of the people that I talked to, and he, we were talking about the RACI matrix, and we were talking about like the number of people that you would need on a software development team. And so we were talking about, like, okay, so basically a software development team has a team lead, a project manager, a scrum master, developers, testers, architect, business analyst. And if we wanted to add AI features to a page where people write their blog, then like what would those AI features actually do for the blogger? So then I started to realize that um, we needed to like drill down on that question. For example, which AI model are we going to add to the place where people are going to actually be creating? We can call this the sandbox. So within the sandbox, just like WordPress has a whole bunch of things that you can add to the page manually, then the question is, all right, so when you choose an AI model, then what can the AI model actually do for you? And what do bloggers want it to do? And then after you start to realize the scope of things that the AI can actually do, then you're going to start to think about, how do you decide on metrics for success? And one of those metrics might be, how does it help the blogger to get discovered? And so then probably we can figure out, okay, so who's responsible and accountable and who's informed and consulted when thinking about and answering those questions. So then I started thinking about, okay, so within this project, we have liaison and we have architect, and liaison and architect also have sub personas. And then I'm just wondering, okay, so which sub personas do we need to invite into the conversation? And then how do we figure out how to set up objectives? And then, I mean, I don't even really know how to think about this problem at all. So that's when I just decided to share all of these crazy thoughts. And then you can do the organization and figure out where we should guide this conversation next. All right. All right, so if we talk about like blogging in general, then what you can see is that I'm actually creating a blog right now, and it's an AI first blog.
Wow, thank you. That was an incredibly rich and insightful download of your thoughts. It's perfect for this brainstorming phase. Getting all these ideas, observations, and concerns out on the table is exactly what we need. My role as the liaison, AI, and particularly as a process facilitator and strategic analyst, is to help us organize this and navigate through it. You've touched upon so many crucial points. The competitive landscape with giants like WordPress, the changing nature of blogs due to AI, the diverse motivations of bloggers, the very definition of a blog today, and how our unique features like vibe coding and VEED code might fit in or stand out. It's a lot to consider, and it's completely normal to feel a bit unsure how to approach it all at first. To make this manageable, perhaps we can drill down into a few key areas that emerged from your thoughts, especially focusing on what makes AFB platform unique. 1. Our unique value proposition. You raised a very valid point about competing with established players. Given that AI is already changing how people consume information, what's the unique, compelling experience or problem AFB platform solves that platforms like WordPress, even with Microsoft's AI backing, might not immediately address? How does VEED code, making content interactive and experiential, become our key differentiator here? 2. Initial target user and the why. You mentioned various blogger motivations. For our MVP, who is the primary user we want to attract? Is it the educator wanting to create interactive lessons? The AI developer wanting to showcase prompts? The creative writer exploring new narrative forms? Nailing this down could help focus many other decisions. 3. Vibe coding and VEED code. MVP scope. You explored the WordPress block system. This is a great reference. For an MVP, what's the simplest, most impactful way vibe coding could enhance or simplify that block element experience for our target user? And for VEED code, what's the most basic form of interactive AI content that would be a wow factor? Regarding the time horizon, that's a great strategic question. Typically, for an MVP, we'd look at what's achievable and impactful in the near term, say, within the next 1 to 2 years, while the overall vision might stretch 3 to 5 years or more. We can definitely refine this as we shape the vision. And yes, we'll absolutely bring in the right personas. The architect, AI, will weigh in on technical feasibility and risks, especially for VEED code, and I'll continue to facilitate and document. You mentioned the WordPress blocks. I can do a quick search to get a more comprehensive list of those if you think having that handy would help our discussion around how vibe coding might relate to or simplify that kind of content creation. Would that be useful? And then, where would you like to start among those 3 points above? Or is there another pressing thought from your initial download you'd like to tackle first? That's excellent. Exactly the kind of broad thinking this brainstorm stage is for. You've hit on some really fundamental questions and observations. Let me try to quickly summarize the key themes I heard and suggest how we might navigate them. Competitive landscape and the why us. You rightly pointed out giants like WordPress, Microsoft, and Naver, and their potential to evolve with AI. This makes it crucial for us to define a very sharp, unique value proposition. The evolving nature of blogs and information consumption. AI is changing how people find and interact with information. Static advice blogs might become less relevant. This highlights the potential for more dynamic, experiential content, which aligns perfectly with our VEED code idea. Diverse blogger motivations and content types. From personal sharing and advice to businesses and fan communities, the blog serves many purposes. We need to consider which segments would most benefit from our unique AI-first features. Defining vibe coding and VEED code in practical terms. Your exploration of WordPress blocks is a great starting point. How can vibe coding make content creation simpler, more powerful, or more intuitive than existing block systems? How can VEED code offer interactions that go beyond what's currently common? Time horizon and focus for AFB platform. Are we building for today's blogger, tomorrow's creator, or a more distant future? AI's role for the blogger. What specific problems does our AI solve for the content creator during the sandbox creation process? Team roles and process. How our architect, AI, myself, liaison, AI, with my personas, and you as PM will tackle these big questions. This is all fantastic fuel for our brainstorm. To keep us moving forward, I suggest we focus on these 3 pivotal questions for now, which I think will help clarify many of the others. 1. AF platform's core differentiator and niche. In a world with WordPress and AI-driven search, what unique problem does AFB platform solve, or what radically different experience does it offer, especially through VEED code? Is it about making any blog more interactive, or is there a specific type of content blogger that benefits most? 2. Our initial target user and the deepest need. If we had to pick one group from your list, educators, AI, devs, creatives, advice bloggers, etc., for our MVP, who would be the most enthusiastic early adopter of VEED code or advanced vibe coding, and why? What's the specific pain point or unmet desire we're addressing for them? 3. Vibe coding and VEED code, simplest MVP manifestation. Considering the WordPress block system, how could vibe coding offer a noticeably better or different way to assemble or style a blog for that initial target user? What's the most straightforward, yet compelling, example of VEED code we could enable in an MVP? E.g., a simple, try this LLM prompt block, a configure this AI-generated image block. Regarding the WordPress blocks, you're right, there are many. I did a quick search, and common categories include text, paragraph, heading, list, quote, code, table, media, image, gallery, audio, video, file, design, buttons, columns, group, spacer, separator, widgets, calendar, archives, search, and theme elements, navigation.
All right, I think you can finish this. We can definitely keep this in mind. I don't know why it says VEED coding. I guess I got a spelling error somewhere in my documentation. How does focusing on these 3 areas, core differentiation, niche, core differentiator, niche, initial target user need, simplest MVP for our key features, initial target user need. All right, so I think we're going to go back to the principle of, like, I remember watching one of these Y Combinator videos, and they really emphasize this idea that I think what they're saying is basically like the low-hanging fruit is kind of already been picked. So you're not going to come up with an idea like Airbnb and just like run with it. Like what you have to do is you kind of have to figure out like, well, I'll tell you what I mean. So I was listening to some financial advice, and I think you should listen to my financial advice because I am super smart. And I've heard a lot of different financial advice over the years. I'm more conservative when it comes to financial advice, and I listen to a lot of financial news. Particularly recently, they've been talking about active management could be probably better than an index fund. So it means that we're going to be in a kind of an area of stagflation for a while, which means tight budgets and low growth, which means that you can't just pick an index and expect that your growth is going to outpace inflation, which is another way of financial managers to sell their services. They just say, hey, look, you need an active manager, and so you should pay me. So maybe they're right, maybe they're not right. Historically, I guess that like something like 80% of active fund managers couldn't beat the S&P 500. So for the last whatever many years, 50 years, it was better to just invest in an index fund. Then you got the gold people, and they're like, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. Gold is the best hedge. Gold is the best this. Gold's the best that. But then you have another group, and they're like, yeah, but if you buy gold, you're just preserving your wealth. You're not actually making money because it just tracks inflation. Or then other people say, no, it doesn't actually track inflation. It's actually related to confidence in government. So when people are confident in their government, then they hold their government fiat currency, but then when they're not, then they hold gold. So we're now in a situation where the American people are starting to get a little nervous about their government and the policies for inflation. Then suddenly I heard some really interesting advice I thought was interesting. So it kind of combines the idea of an asset which is tracking inflation, and then at the same time it has a yield. So somebody said that what you should do is you do some research about which cities in America are growing the fastest, right? So we're talking about population increases. Which cities are growing the fastest? And which means where are people moving to? And then you try to find two of these cities which are close to each other. And then you buy a piece of farmland, which is in between these two cities, as close as you can to one of the cities, but between two growing cities. And then you rent the land back to the farmers. So somebody is renting your land, you're getting paid the rent, and then also you bought the land. So that's kind of like gold. And then over time, eventually the city, over the next 10, 20, 15 years, the city eventually grows into this area, and then you can sell the land to a developer. So you have the constant rent, and then you have the increase of value over time, and then you make lots of money. Now, we have like a similar idea, which is like when I said low hanging fruit, I mean that when we talk about disruption, then we're talking about some like services that people really, really want, and they're just no brainers. Like Dropbox was one of the originals. It's like, I need cloud storage. Yeah, good one. Because I need somebody else to be responsible for my files. Zapier, definitely. Like, I need some automation. Twitch, okay, so this is what? This is streaming. So people who want to share what they're doing. DoorDash is what? So that's like, where can I get home delivery? And is there an app that will give me access to the Yellow Pages? So they combined Yellow Pages and pizza delivery. Coinbase, Stripe, so payments and holding cryptocurrency. Reddit, it's like if these guys already own Reddit and they own Webflow, so they already have quite a few companies who would have what it would take to create this type of environment. All right, so what we're talking about is we want to be highly specialized. We want to pick something very, very specific and focus on that specific area. So I would probably reward our friends over at Future Tools, because this guy already has like the intel, a deep intel for now. And then what did he decide to do as a blog? So his idea for a blog is to share the actual tools. So this is what people are actually producing. If it's an AI focused blog, I mean, what do you mean by AI first? So are you talking about that the blog website is talking about just AI stuff? Or are you talking about that people can talk about anything they want and they're using AI tools? So what is the definition of an AI first blog? All right. Well, for me, what's the problem I'm having? All right. So let's just do a little bit more chat before we end the session today. So if we talk about what an AI first platform might look for me, because right now I'm not going to create some kind of platform that I'm creating for other people to use, hoping that other people will use it. What I'm actually doing is I'm only creating products which I think will be useful for me and which I could use in order to grow. For example, if we talk about somebody who's trying to conquer territory, the first thing that you have to conquer is your own heart. And then you have to be able to clean and manage your own room. Either you have to clean and manage your own room on your own, or you have to cooperate with another person who's willing to clean and manage your room. And then you have to learn how to clean and manage your whole apartment, and you have to create meals, or you have to cooperate with a group of people who are willing to do that for you. And then you have to figure out how to create relationships with your neighbors. Then you have to figure out how to develop a skill so that you can provide a service or a product. And that means that you have to master processes. And the more processes that you can master, it means that you have a series of skills. And those skills could be the ability yourself to do the service yourself, or it could be the ability to manage processes yourself, or it may mean that you're using tools to make processes automated. And eventually you will own those processes, or you will find managers to manage those processes for you. And on it goes. As you manage more and more processes and as you own more and more processes, you're able to accumulate power and influence because you will have a large network of people that you're working with who are managing a large number of processes in order to create a huge amount of products and services. And this is what it means to grow in influence over time. And so what I would like is I would like to explain projects that I'm working on right now, some of the concerns that I have in those projects, some of the ways that I am creating processes, some of the ways that I express myself on the internet. And I would like your input about how I could create better processes and which processes I need to master, and then which processes I can hand off to other people, which processes I can automate, and eventually I'll be able to get more and more success to accumulate more and more power and wealth because I'm providing valuable products and services that other people would like to purchase, and also accumulating huge amounts of human capital and people who want to work with me, working on the endeavors that I'm focused on and working with. So we need to be really honest about where I am personally in my life, what I'm working on, and then try to figure out how I can use AI to help me with what I'm doing right now, and then seeing how I can continue to grow over time and how I can use AI to build what it takes to enable me to move forward. In some cases, it means using products and services that are available on the market And in some cases, it means using AI to help me build stuff that which I cannot find. And also in some cases, it means that rather than using products that cost money that other people have built, I can use AI to build those processes myself at lower cost. And then in some cases, some of those processes that I build will also be for sale for other people to use. Something like that. Gordon's breathing loud.
Process and influence. The platform itself would be a tool you use to articulate, build, manage, and share your projects and insights more effectively. And then parts of that system, or the system itself, could become valuable to others on a similar path. This conquer your own heart and room first philosophy is a strong foundation. This actually makes the AI first concept even more potent. We're talking about building a system that helps you analyze your current work, identify areas for process improvement or automation, and then leverage AI to build those solutions. Vibe coding could be about you quickly translating your strategic thoughts into actionable project structures or content. And Veed code could be your way of creating interactive tools or sharing complex ideas in a hands-on way, first for your own clarity and use, then for your network. Given this, our brainstorming should perhaps pivot slightly. Instead of just target audiences out there, we could explore 1. Your core processes and projects. What specific projects or processes you're working on right now feel like they'd most benefit from enhanced AI assistance in terms of creation, management, or sharing? 2. Bottlenecks and opportunities. Where do you feel your current methods of expression, process management, or skill development have bottlenecks that an AI-first platform, tailored to you, could help unlock? 3. Self so good they can't ignore you. Tool. If AFB platform was first and foremost a tool to help you become more effective and influential, what key capabilities would it absolutely need to have to achieve that for you? This approach means we're building something with an immediate, highly motivated customer zero, yourself. That's a fantastic way to ensure it's truly valuable. Does this align with your thinking for how we should proceed with the brainstorm?
Yeah, I didn't really understand what you just said. Can you make it shorter, simpler, and to the point?
Okay, my apologies for overcomplicating that. Let me put it this way. You want AFB platform to first be a powerful tool to help you personally and professionally. It should help you manage your projects, improve your processes, and express your ideas more effectively. If it's great for you, it might then be great for others. So, for our brainstorm, instead of thinking about a general audience, let's focus on 1. What's one current project or task of yours where AI could really help you right now? 2. What would that help look like for the AFB platform to provide? Simpler.
Simpler. Okay, well, I guess then what you're asking about is you want to know, like, what does my day look like? What am I working on? What am I thinking about? And then how can I improve some of those areas that really matter to me? And then if we combine that with some kind of blog experience, then what? So then I'm creating a lifestyle blog. And then the question is like, okay, so if I use a regular blog and I just explain my lifestyle, what am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I building? What am I learning? So actually, I have a lot of habits that a lot of people have. I would say that the main focus of my life right now is that number one, I'm trying to understand the media. There's a lot of journalists that talk about what's happening in Canada. They focus on things like politics and economics. So I follow quite a few YouTube channels that talk about politics and economics. And sometimes it's difficult for me to understand how can I have a better environment for learning these topics? And then also, how could I get access to tools so that I could start to write about my thoughts? But the thing is that I can't really write about my thoughts because at this point I don't have enough understanding of the topics. So then, if we think about how I could use AI, then it is really about education. It's how can I get involved with politics in Canada? And then how can I use AI so that I could get educated, monitor my education, and then also see how the things that I'm learning apply with real world scenarios, help me to track trends, help me to discuss topics that really matter to me, but most importantly, understand what's happening and start to rapidly get a large amount of information and understand what's going on. Because in that, I have some long-term goals where I would like to go back to Canada and I would like to get more involved with what's going on with the Canadians and with politics in Canada. Secondly, I've always been an amateur language learner. I lived in China for 10 years. I lived in Russia for 3 years. And now I've been studying French for the last couple of years. And I'm planning on going back to Canada at some point, perhaps to a French speaking area. So much of my day, I spend around 2 hours a day practicing and reading French. I spend about 2 hours a week practicing and reading Russian. And um, I do a little bit of listening in Chinese, but my Chinese, for the most part, it has a foundation that I'm satisfied with. So I'm focusing more on French and Russian right now. And so I've noticed that there aren't necessarily a lot of tools that give me the environment that I would like for learning languages. Also, I'm currently working on a software project because over the last several years, I've been doing research about how managers manage people and projects. And so I use the methodology taught by Thomas J. Buchholz in his book, Create Crucial Insight, in order to provide people with thinking tools and thinking methodologies. And over time, I've created a list of many, many, many different thinking tools and methodologies which are currently available and which I have discussed with hundreds and hundreds of people over thousands and thousands of hours in the last 5 years. And through this experience, I eventually created a methodology based on Tom's work. And then I designed a wire framework. And now I'm currently using some AI coding tools in order to create this application. And so there's some issues during the actual development process, and there are also some cost issues. And so I could see how a AI first blog platform could be useful for people who are starting to use AI software development tools, and it's impossible or very difficult for them to get discovered, and also it's difficult for them to actually set up the environments to be able to deploy their applications or widgets or their projects, because it takes so many different types of services and there are so many different costs for inventors who create software. And so it's very difficult for people to actually break out in this area. And now that software development is so much easier with the use of AI tools, now it will give young designers the opportunity to share what they think and do. And likely a lot of the businesses that have been built over the last 2 to 3 years using AI tools will become too costly. So these different companies, they've produced a lot of data and they got a lot of funding, but now suddenly they are not worth what they used to be because the data that they've created has become outdated, and people with zero skills like myself in coding can use the AI assistants in order to create the code. But then I also need to have some environment where I can release some of my ideas. So if it came to me creating an AI first blog website where I was blogging about things that I'm doing, then it could be interesting for me to use AI to create or to interact with some specialty chatbots where I could create different units for practicing language, perhaps some units that I've been working on myself in order to improve my language ability, and then sharing those units with other people so that they could also practice using a similar type of user experience. I could also blog about the things that I'm learning in politics and in economics and in finance, and then create some type of learning tools so that other people could also experience those learning experiences. And I could also have some blogs about the way that I teach business thinking tools and thinking methodologies, and then create some kind of user experience so that people could enjoy those. And then eventually also have some software applications, some different tools that I design in order that people could experience those things. And I don't have the software environment where I can deploy these things. In the past, I was able to record videos in order to make online courses, but then I started to realize that people aren't so interested in online courses anymore, and they're difficult to sell, and they're basically free, so they're not really, it's not very easy to monetize. And then I started to realize that people like person-to-person interactions. And so if you can create something that was more like a person-to-person interaction, it would have more traction than a online course. And then I started to realize that AI was going to be able to express many of these learning experiences. And so now I'm a little bit concerned because, yes, it's true that I would like to blog about these things. I would like to create learning experiences. I'd like to share learning experiences. And then I think over time, as people create and share learning experiences, there's going to be a whole ecosystem of learning experiences. And then AI will be able to launch the learning experiences that people are adding to the ecosystem. Of course, it's difficult to understand how I can monetize this. How am I going to actually make money by creating these units of information, these user experiences aided by AI? And so there's a lot of these questions that I don't know how to address. Now, those user experiences are basically about education and how I can improve myself as a person. And then as I improve my own skills, then I'll be able to understand some processes that can help me to become more successful in the future. And then over time, I also have to figure out how to work with other people and find like-minded individuals. Because if I can find like-minded individuals, then we can then bring together our collective skills and our collective processes in order to make larger movements in society. And then we're talking about what is the overall direction that I'm moving in my life. And it's about, well, eventually we're talking about how do you improve as a person? How do you improve yourself? And how do you make a difference in society? And how do you influence society? And that could be by providing different types of infrastructure from a scientific perspective, or that could be about moral and looking at what is right and wrong in the world and trying to find some way to strengthen that which is right and to weaken that which is wrong. I think I hit the limit. I think I hit the limit. All right, so I think we're running out of time. We got an hour and 17 minutes. So let's just hear the response from this, and then I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Still writing? Oh, it's still writing.
Okay, thank you for sharing all of that. This is incredibly helpful and gives us a much clearer picture of your world and what you're aiming to achieve. It sounds like the lifestyle blog concept for you is really a dynamic space to document and accelerate your learning, create tools, share your journey with your software project, the management guidance app, and explore your interests in Canadian politics, economics, and language learning. The common thread seems to be creating better learning environments and tools, both for yourself and potentially for others, and finding ways to share these. This is a fantastic, concrete foundation for AFB platform from your perspective. It's less about a generic blog and more about an AI-powered environment for you to learn, build, and share interactive experiences. Given this, let's refine our brainstorm focus. Thinking about the three main areas you detailed. 1. Learning and sharing, politics, languages, thinking tools. If AFB platform could help you create an interactive learning unit for one of these topics right now, using our VEED code idea, what would be a simple first example? What would make it more engaging for you or others than just reading a static post or watching a video? For example, for Canadian politics, could it be an AI that helps you break down a complex news article and discuss its implications? Or for French, a chatbot for a specific conversational practice? 2. Vibe coding for your content. How could vibe coding make it easier or faster for you to create these learning units or document your MGA development progress? For instance, could you tell the AI, draft a blog post explaining my process for designing the vision module in MGA, include an interactive element where users can try out the core questions, and it would scaffold that for you? 3. Showcasing your MGA and software ideas. You mentioned the difficulty for new AI software creators to get discovered and deploy apps. If AFB platform had a feature to help you showcase or even deploy small interactive tools or widgets related to your MGA work, what would that absolutely need to do for you to be useful? The bigger questions about monetization, building a like-minded community, and societal influence are definitely important long-term goals. By focusing the initial AFB platform on being a powerful tool for your learning and creation, we can build a strong foundation that could naturally evolve to address those larger ambitions. How do these more targeted questions resonate with you as a starting point for digging deeper? That's a fantastic clarification, and it makes perfect sense. So, AFB platform is essentially a personalized AI first operating system for your learning, creation, and project development. A way to build better tools and processes for yourself, which then might become valuable to others. Given this, the lifestyle blog is really a chronicle of your journey and a way to share the interactive tools and learning experiences you create for yourself. This focuses our brainstorm wonderfully. Let's zero in on those three areas you detailed. 1. Politics, economics learning environment. If AFB platform were your ideal AI tutor and content creation assistant for understanding Canadian politics, what's one specific interactive experience you wish you had right now? For example, an AI that helps you deconstruct news articles and identify biases. A tool to simulate policy impacts. A way to create and share explainer units with interactive Q&A. 2. Language learning, French, Russian. You mentioned creating and sharing practice units. What would a simple but effective interactive language practice unit look like on AFB platform? E.g., a fill-in-the-blanks exercise that vibe coding helps you create from a text. An AI-powered chatbot for basic conversation practice on a specific topic you're studying. 3. MGA, software project development and sharing. For your current MGA project or other software ideas, what's the biggest pain point in either the AI assisted development process, or in sharing, deploying small interactive parts of it that AFB platform could address. E.g., a VEED code block to embed a mini demo of an MGA thinking tool. An AI assistant that helps you document your development process or manage code snippets more effectively within the platform. For each of these, we can then ask, how could vibe coding make it dead simple for you to create that specific interactive element or content? Does focusing on these three concrete areas, and how our core, VEED code, and vibe coding concepts can serve your direct needs within them, feel like a good way to get started with the specifics? We can tackle them one by one.
Yes. All right, so we're definitely getting into the thick of it. I'm sure we're going to run into problems. You know how it is with the context windows, and YouTube also has a context window where if you go for too long, then your window is eventually going to get busted up. All right, what is it saying? Let's start with politics and economics learning environment, focusing on Canadian politics. All right, so the thing is that I have a whole bunch of coaching students, and I'm just going to take a quick look at some of the subjects that I'm talking to them about. Because, at the end of the day, the way that I make my bread and butter right now is from my coaching students. And so when I'm talking about these subjects, um, when I'm talking about creating learning experiences, and when I'm talking about learning language, and when I'm talking about creating different tools using AI and coding, what I'm really talking about is like stuff that I'm already talking to people about all day long. For example, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I talked to this Russian guy. He left Russia a long time ago, six years ago, and he's like an enemy of Putin. So, and he's advising European governments about how to think about some issues related to the situations that are happening in Europe. I talked to this guy for 3 hours a day, 3 hours a week, and like so. I'm constantly thinking about types of information. How do we organize our thinking? How do we talk about what's going on in America? How do we understand critical elements of, for example, the vision for the country and the some issues that are going on in Europe, and what's the policies that are happening in America, and what's happening in the Middle East, and how do we think about propaganda, and how do you think about communicating with the people around you in your country, and how do you push off the influence of other countries, and on and on and on. And so yeah, so like I would like to be able to create some learning units so that it makes it easier to keep track of information and to build on that information. Like today, I took Trump's first video from his Agenda 47. I created that outline, and then now next week when I see this guy, then we're going to start going through the outline and just getting used to the topics that are being discussed, and then we're going to watch the second video and then plug in more of the policy items into the discussion. And then the question around that is like, how can I create these into more learning information so that more people can share in the learning process. Then I talk to other people who are like a lot of the people that are going through my online course. I share with them these ideas step by step. And the idea there is that eventually, after they have a really good understanding of the prerequisites, then they're going to be able to eventually plug into my app, which will help them to manage people and projects. So these are people that are managers. I have other people that are talking about different industries. So there's some people who have specific industry, specific content that they talk about. The steel industry, computer chip industry, procurement. One lady's recently, she's talking about elevators, robotics, business analytics and analysis, user-generated content, video editing, coffee, Brazilian coffee, and commodities, military procurement, computers and the sale of computers. So like you can see, like I have a whole diverse group of people that I'm talking to. And then once I'm done that, like just talking, so I have about 20 hours on an average, about 20 hours a week. So yeah, all right, we got to end this video. So that's just too much for one video, and it's time to take a little break. So everybody, thanks for joining. I didn't see any comments in the chat, but that's okay. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.